Okay, there we go. Hello and welcome back to today's episode. And today we are talking about a topic that I came to think about actually just today, while I was having a dialogue with one of my friends. And the topic we were talking about was a little bit unrelated to this overall theme here, but the core message was kind of the same, and I'm going to explain that over the course of the video. Like, what's the core message even? I was thinking about why, as artists, when we create art, why do we tend to get so incredibly frustrated when it doesn't go our way just a single time? Because if you look at creating art, the main issue there, or not really the main issue, but the underlying nature of art is that it is such a unique thing. Therefore, we value it a lot. Now, why is it unique? It is unique because you are the only person that could have possibly come up with the idea that you came up with. Now, of course, there's a lot of copycatting, and the kind of inspiration which is just like, oh, I take what I've heard or have seen in other artists' work, and I'm going to just do my variation of that. And you could argue if that's like true uniqueness. I get that point, but I'm talking about, like original content. Let's stick, for the sake of the topic, let's stick to original content. You create a piece of original content, and it is so valuable because you are the only person that could have come up with it. Therefore, it has kind of your fingerprint on it, all over it pretty much, because only you, with your life, with your experiences, with what you have been going through, could have possibly created this outcome. Now, that's why we value it so much. And if we are not aware of that, we unconsciously invite all kind of problems and frustration. Because what do we do when we have a really great idea and you start getting into the work of it and it just doesn't work out? What do? We get frustrated. We tend to be self-loathing. We tend to belittle ourselves, and we think that we are a disappointment. And we do that because our ego convinces us that this idea must on some level have been so great that me as an artist not being able to pull it off means that I am not enough, that I'm incompetent, I'm not skilled enough, and pretentious to act like I could pull this off, and we start belittling ourselves with all these things, and that is not very healthy. So where do we start in fixing that problem? I think the underlying issue that we face with this frustration of not being good enough is, firstly, your ego. Very likely your ego. And this is something that is kind of unavoidable. You can't create art without it directly influencing the amount of ego that you produce, because you create something, you like it a lot, you put it out, and other people like it. So you feel really, really good about yourself. That kind of nurtures your ego, because you're like, oh wow, am I that good? Is it really that good that people like it? Oh, that's interesting. So that's the first part. It's your ego that is going to be nurtured by just the act of creating art and putting it out there. And then the other thing is, in connection to that, your perceived level of possible skill that you can put out. And that is something that only you can know for sure. And because only you can know it for sure, what your skill level is, you are the only person that keeps yourself in check. And therefore you can set yourself too high standards. So then when you actually have an idea that doesn't work out as well as previous ideas, it's going to not only hurt your ego, but it's also going to hurt the belief in yourself that you are skillful enough to make ideas work. And this is where all the frustration comes in. So that is still not really fixing the issue, right? It's just more kind of understanding it. Now, even though that is not a fix, this is a crucial part to understand a possible fix for the problem. Because these things, that evaluation of your own skill, that is something that you have in other parts of life as well, in the normal jobs as well. You evaluate your own skill of what you did. But what you don't have usually, if you go after a service kind of a job, you don't really have the ego part, because usually you just execute the ideas of other people. So the whole ego part doesn't really apply there. But it does apply in art, it does apply in painting and whatever, writing, and even designing, like product design. It even applies there. I think that's also kind of an artistry. And I think that is the catalyst. The ego part really is the catalyst to this whole frustration thing. Now, how can we actually avoid ego being such a big part in what we do? We cannot really avoid it, as stated before. Ego is something that will grow depending on your success anyways. But what we can do is we can give ourselves kind of a reality check every now and then, where we look over the past ideas that we had, and even though they were great ideas, we ask ourselves, and with that we show humility in some way, we ask ourselves, what could I have done even better? What can I do next time? So we need to separate the amount of success that we have gained with something that we created from the entitlement of I learn from this experience or I don't learn from this experience. Because usually what we do is we learn from painful experiences. That's the single most biggest reason we go forward in life. Something painful happens to us, and then we truly learn our lesson, and then we do things better next time. But in this case, and also in this case, let me put it this way, and also in this case, it will invite more pain down the road if you don't do that actively, if you are not like, okay, even though this was successful and this worked really well, what could I have done even better? What did I learn from it? And it's not even just about what could I have done better? It's also about what did I do really good? What were the strengths about this thing, you know? What made it really good in the first place? But showing the humility to accept that even though the idea has worked out, where could we improve next time? What could we do different next time? And I think that introducing just this little change of being like, okay, yeah, this is great and people seem to like it a lot, but what could I do better? I think that really sets you up for growth as well, because it doesn't feel then like you achieve this one and only goal, and also it keeps you from procrastinating, probably, because if you reach this success, you're like, oh well, I guess I have it all. And then the next time you do something and it doesn't work out, you're going to hate yourself, because you're like, man, I lost all my power, I lost all the skill that I had before, I lost all the great things I was able to pull off. And that just invites unnecessary self-loathing in the end. Because we need to stop thinking that we can pull off a great job every time we want to. We can't. There's a certain level of theory that you can learn and apply in your work, that is true, that can help you somewhat, to a degree, to make the things you create better. But sometimes it's going to be unavoidable that you have an idea that you think is going to be good, and no matter what you do with it, it's not going to work out. So in these moments, it's better to just walk away from it. Maybe do it after a while again, try it out again. So the core message of all of this, and this applies to everything in life, I guess, is do never measure your self-worth from the success of something that you have done, but only by the amount of lessons you have learned because of the thing that you did. Only how much that thing that you did brought you forward as a person. And I think looking at it this way does kind of prevent your ego from outgrowing. And of course, don't get me wrong, success is an indicator of doing something right, you know, and you should be proud of the success that you are having. But you shouldn't determine your self-worth over that, because the success is temporary. It's going to die down after some time. And the lessons you've learned hopefully stick with you a lifelong. And that might be, I think that might be a good point to sum it all up and to end this video. I hope you could take away anything from this video. As always, stay safe, stay focused, work on yourselves, and see you next time. Welcome to the end cut. Thank you for watching the whole video if you made it to this point. I hope you enjoy the format so far. It is pretty much not scripted. The only scripts that I do have is about some bullet points sometimes. And I try to figure out these topics during the video while I'm going at it. So what I try to achieve with that is kind of a natural, logical sorting through these issues that we're facing. And I hope that can connect to you guys and that you like the idea behind it. Stay tuned for more and stay safe.